Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Trying to with Leah. Please excuse me today. I do feel a little bit under the weather, but I'm still going to show up for you regardless. So here we go. So today we are going to talk about trying to trust ourselves again. And I think that this is something that way more people struggle with than we even realize. Because for a lot of us, we lost trust in ourselves a long time ago. And sometimes we don't even remember when it happened or how it happened, but we feel it. We feel it in the hesitation. We feel it in the second guessing. We feel it in that voice that says, "Are you sure? Are you sure that you know what you're doing? Are you sure that you're not going to mess this up again?" And that voice can be really loud. Losing trust in yourself doesn't usually happen all at once. It happens in little tiny moments. It happens when you were so convinced that you were right and then you find out that you were wrong. It happens when you make a fool of yourself with full confidence, which I have done several times. It happens when you speak up boldly and then later wish that you had not said a single word. And those moments come along with feelings of embarrassment, humiliation, anger, frustration, and sometimes even self betrayal. You kind of start thinking, how could I not have seen that? Or why did I say that? Or why didn't I listen? Or maybe even, what's wrong with me? And slowly, resentment builds, not towards other people, but towards yourself. And when resentment builds, trust starts to disappear. You become far less likely to trust your intuition the next time. And for me, that was kind of devastating because I see my intuition as my guidance system. It's the thing that steers me, it's the thing that protects me, it's the thing that leads me towards what I need. Not necessarily what I want, but what I need. So, learning to trust it again has been a very long road. Something I think is really important to talk about is this: it's very common to confuse intuition with fear or anxiety. Sometimes the line between a gut feeling and anxiety is paper thin. Anxiety is loud, it spirals, it catastrophizes, it's repetitive. But your intuition is quieter. It's steady. It doesn't beg. It doesn't panic. It just knows. But here's where I struggled. I would get a gut feeling, a strong one, and then I would end up talking myself out of it. I would rationalize it or minimize it. I would say, no, you're overthinking. You're being dramatic, or you're just scared. And then I would end up choosing differently than my intuition told me to. And then when the outcome didn't go well, I would blame my intuition. I'd say, see, my gut feelings are wrong. But the truth is that most of the time, my gut feeling was not wrong. I just didn't actually follow it. If I had stuck with my original instinct, most of the time, I think I probably would have been right. And that realization was a huge one because I had to admit something hard. It wasn't that I couldn't trust my intuition, it was that I didn't trust myself enough to follow it. I was actually very intuitive as a child. Even though I was often described as living in la la land, I had very strong feelings about things. I felt energy and shifts, and I felt tension. I felt when something wasn't right. And I think I probably got that from my mom because she is very much the same way. One of my earliest memories of my intuition is actually kind of intense. I was probably about 9 or 10 years old, but we were going on a road trip and I was in the back seat of my car completely asleep. My mom and my sister and I had all fallen asleep. And out of nowhere, I woke up And I mean, out of a deep sleep. And I remember kind of feeling confused and thinking, why am I even awake? I'm so groggy. But I couldn't fall back asleep for some reason. And I kept looking out the window at this semi truck that was driving next to us. It would kind of sway back and forth in the wind and kind of drift closer and then pull back and then drift closer and then pull back. And I kept watching it happen over and over again. And then I noticed that suddenly it wasn't pulling back anymore. It started creeping closer and closer and closer until it was uncomfortably close to my window. And something in me just knew. So I screamed out to my dad, "Dad!" And he swerved and honked, and we almost got ran off the road by that semi. The truck driver hadn't even seen us. But luckily, we avoided a collision. And I fully believe that the reason that I woke up out of that deep sleep was to notice that semi. Because if I hadn't, who knows what might have happened? I might not even be here today. So that moment really stayed with me because it showed me that our intuition protects us. It steers us away from harm. It guides us towards what we need. And when we follow it, life flows better. But intuition isn't the only reason that we stop trusting ourselves. Sometimes we stop trusting ourselves because of our own behavior. For me, it was actually blurting things out. I was a full-fledged blurter in my youth. I spoke before thinking all of the time. If something came to mind, it came out of my mouth almost immediately. And sometimes that led to awkwardness or hurt feelings or embarrassment. So as I got older, of course, I tried to fix it. I taught myself to pause, to give myself a beat before responding. And that did help. It made me more thoughtful, more controlled. But something else happened too. I started speaking less, expressing less, editing myself constantly, filtering every word. I wasn't just pausing anymore, I was actually suppressing. And I had developed this fear that blurting would somehow come back and ruin something again. So instead of trusting myself, I monitored myself constantly. And that monitoring slowly turned into distrust. When I started my healing journey, I realized something. I gave compassion to everybody else, freely, easily, and automatically, but not to myself. And that had to change. One thing I started doing when reflecting on my past was I would kind of dissociate a little, but in a healthy way. I would imagine that the story I was replaying in my own mind happened to my best friend, not to me, but someone I cared deeply about. And of course, shout out to Alicia again. You are the reason that I learned what true unconditional love looks like at a very young age. We met when we were 13 from very different worlds, but we just clicked. And for the first time in my life, I could actually fully be myself. No fear of judgment, no editing, no shrinking, no performing. It did not matter what I said or did. She still thought I was the best person ever. And I felt the exact same about her. Even when life pulled us apart multiple times, she was always the one person that I could go and tell anything to at any time. And that's unconditional love. And while I have amazing parents, and I truly did luck out there, discipline is still a part of parenting. So even though they loved me unconditionally, I didn't fully understand what that unconditional love felt like until I experienced it for myself in friendship. And that really changed things for me. So when I reflect on my past now, I ask myself, if this happened to Alicia, what would I say to her? Would I call her stupid? Would I shame her? Would I say, how could you? No. I would look for context. I would look for pain. I would look for the why. I would say, yes, you made the wrong choice, but you didn't have anybody guiding you at that time. Yes, you didn't stick up for yourself, but you were just trying to survive. And yes, you reacted poorly, but you were overwhelmed. When you view yourself through that lens, something shifts. You start understanding, you start protecting, you start feeling compassion for the version of you that you used to hate. And once you break down those walls, you wrap your arms around that person. You give them the support that they didn't feel at the time, the love that they didn't feel at the time, the understanding that they needed at the time. You become your very own best friend. And that is where trust starts rebuilding. I talked about this a lot in my last episode as well, but I think it's important to hit on again because trust doesn't come back overnight. It's built the same way any relationship is built, through consistency, through honesty, through repair. When you trust yourself again, it sounds like even if I mess up, I can fix it. Even if I say the wrong thing, I can apologize. Even if I choose wrong, I can course correct. Let's say I blurt something out now. Instead of spiraling, I can say, whoa, where did that come? My bad, sorry. And move on. Because mistakes don't define me anymore. My response to them does. I trust myself to recognize when I make a mistake, to own it, to correct it, to stand up for myself, and to give myself compassion daily. And the more I've done that, the easier it gets. The more confident that I feel. The more I prove to myself that I am capable. But here's the thing, it takes work, real work, emotional work, brutal work sometimes. And I've been working on myself for a long time now, and I can tell you it is not glamorous. It's mostly uncomfortable. It's facing your own patterns and admitting when you're wrong. It's sitting with the pain instead of running from it. And most people don't actually want to look at their pain. We get so afraid of what we might find if we actually look at ourselves. But when you look at things head on, most of the time they end up being not nearly as scary as you imagined. Or maybe you realize that you're stronger than you thought. Honestly, I think in most situations, it's both. You deserve to feel safe in your own body. You deserve to trust your reactions. You deserve to handle life's challenges without collapsing into self-hatred. You deserve to feel like you have your own back. And if you don't have somebody in your life who gives you unconditional love right now, you can actually become that person for yourself. I know it sounds big, but the most important thing you can ever do is heal. Be your own safe place. Be your own defender. Be your own reassurance. And from there, trust grows. If you are working on trusting yourself again, I see you. If you've doubted yourself into silence, I hear you. And if you've confused your anxiety with intuition, I feel you. And I promise you, rebuilding that trust is possible. It takes compassion, honesty, and work, but it's always worth it because life truly does get better when you try. So please let me know in the comments, are you working on trusting yourself again? Did something I say today hit home for you? I would love to hear your story if you're willing to share. And I hope to see you guys next week. Thanks for being here.